Hello, it's me, Fleesveon. Welcome to this small tutorial on how to shade shiny clothes pieces with a grainy look. I decided it would be best to make content for YouTube. This will be accessed earlier for my Patreon supporters, except for this one, as it's mostly an announcement video. If you would like something specific, make sure to join my Patreon to be able to request tutorial videos and ask for customized feedback on your own art. I will explain what brushes, effects, and blending modes I use to get something similar to this result. I drew something quick, and I'll leave the PSD for my patrons so they can also try this themselves. There's not much to be said. It was just me doing the Control C, draw kind of thing. So there's nothing special here. But if you would like something about the liner or anatomy, you can also request it as my patron. I also have a lot of tutorials already in there. In case you would like to have access to them, I also have a Gumroad set up, and I also give personalized feedback. Like if you would like your art review, I will also do that too to my supporters. This is something I do on Discord, and I plan on maybe also doing it on video, so other people can also know what they would do in those cases. Okay, so now it's time to shade. First, we start choosing our light source. I use a soft airbrush where the light would hit in a general way. Nothing too detailed, just a general light source. Here I do a few touch-ups and just give a little bit more of definition to the shade. And there we go. So this is the tone I use for the light source. And this is the base tone I used for the whole suit. There is also a middle tone I'm gonna use in between the shade and the light. This is going to give it a more vibrant look to the overall shading. I do all of this with a soft airbrush. I just use the default settings. I did not modify anything of it. I use Paint Tool SI for the whole process. Oh, make sure to join my Twitter too. I have like a lot of drawings and I post almost every day. For the light source, I mean for shading, I just select the specific part where the shading would go. This is mostly what I do for environmental light. So I do a very soft touch. Like if let's say my environment light is blue, I use blue tone. This contrast with my light that is a warm tone. Makes it look softer and nicer too. Here's just more of the same of that. Just making sure the environmental light hits. As it's a dark tone, it doesn't hit as much as it would do on a lighter tone. So I just make sure it's very subtle and nothing too strong. I do it with a selecting brush. Sai has those, so I'm not sure what they're called in other softwares. So here I do more of a stronger lines for the environmental light. I just do a few lines and like more defined look on where the light would hit. Some people ask a lot how do I know where the light would hit, and that's something you shall learn by learning anatomy and also studying real life objects. As I already have this knowledge, it was very easy to know where to place it. I still have a lot to improve on it, but I think it looks fine for now. I still have a lot more to study and a lot more to improve. Like, It's just something you'll learn through time and a lot of studying. Well, so it's just more of the same thing. I make sure to erase. Oh, I also do this in separate layers at first. I just make sure they are clipped to the base layer so they won't go over the lines. Here's just the shading. Let's say that the hair and the face casts a shadow on the bust. So I do the same thing. I just make sure it has a saturated tone on the borders of the shadow. And then I just blended it a little bit as they are far away. Like the closer the object is, the more defined the shadow is. That's something that also helps as a tip to know where to place your shadows. I did a few folds as it's a very tight clothing. I didn't think it would need many. So I just did it as a very subtle, very small lines. Here is more of the same thing, just making sure I define the light by choosing an even lighter tone. As it's a very shiny texture, I make sure that the lights contrast a lot from the overall base color, and then I just shade the parts that are more distant from the solid lines. As I was saying, the closer they are to the surface, it's going to be more flat, and when it's more distant, it's going to be blended a little bit. This is the brush I'm gonna use. You can use any similar brush texture that have a grainy look. So what I do is that I create an overall texture similar to how I did it with my airbrush, and then I just do it on all the places I think that would need it. I personally recommend that you do it on a smaller parts. I maybe did it a little bit too much, but it's mostly an exaggerated way of doing it so you can see what I'm doing. Here I just make sure that the shadow has no texture so it doesn't get lost on the grainy look. I did it on any place that I think the light would hit, making sure that it's how the texture shows. It doesn't need to be everywhere on the base color, it just needs to be in the specific places, and that would be enough to make the texture pop up. I really think this should have been a little bit smaller, maybe to contrast even more. I think that the less you use these texture brushes, the more natural it would look. So you don't have to do it this much. It's just enough to just have it on very small places. I also make a few touch-ups for the texture. I just add a few shine dots to make the texture pop up even more and look more natural. So it blends a little bit more with the surface that it's on. Here I thought the neck would have a little bit of the bounce effect from the light that's on the chest, so I added just a very subtle look. This is the brush I used, it's on Paint Tool Sai. I added a little bit more of texture, but always lowering opacity or just erasing it on the most part, just making sure that it basically mainly shows on the parts that shine and not on the shading. It's not just putting a flat brush stroke on the clothing piece. You have to do a lot of touch-ups. I still think I should have done even more, but as this is just a quick tutorial, I didn't mind too much the details. Then I did a small shines to make it contrast even more and look more like a shiny texture. I did like a few touches with my pen, so it has that look. Here's some more of that ambience light hitting the subject. There are a few other dots to have more depth. I still think the texture could have been a little bit less obvious, but that's something you can also do on your own, figure it out what's more comfortable for you. So this is the final result for the most part. I just finished it up shading some skin. I won't explain much about the skin as this is just for the clothing pieces tutorial. If you would like something about how I do clothing, I mean how I do skin, you can also ask for it on Patreon, which I have a Discord server that's going to be very active during January. I'm hoping to see you there too. I'm gonna still be very active at YouTube, so don't worry, even though you don't subscribe to Patreon, you'll still receive all this content. I also use this texture for the skin and it just looks fantastic. I really love how it looks very shiny. As you can see, it's just very subtle lines and it does all the magic. With the light, with the right and appropriate shadow, it's going to look really shiny. So it depends how shiny you want it, but I really wanted the skin to glow. So that's how I did it. Shading skin is like really satisfying. So I just thought I had to show it on video even though I won't explain much of it. But you already can see a little bit of what I'm doing. You can also reference from all the explanations I gave before. I do almost similar steps as this type of texture is similar to skin in how it glows. Or at least how I like it to glow. Here I color liner, which I think is something optional. Not everyone does it, but it looks very soft. So there you go. Thank you so much for watching, and please come back.